I come about the name Bulrushess because Lewis Carroll, when he wrote Alice in Wonderland, in the Victorian era, rushes were considered a dreamlike state because most of the rush was above the water, but some of it was under the water. So the Victorians and Lewis Carroll in Alice in Wonderland sort of look at bulrushes as a dream thing. So because we do so many new ideas and new things and innovative stuff, I thought bulrushes was a good name. What blue sky thinking is it's not. People seem to think that you rush and sort of throw ideas and all about, which partly it is. But with blue sky thinking, you've got to have within your group people that have lots of bits of information from lots of different areas of life, so that you can make connections to new things. So our way of doing doing blue sky thinking is, what we actually generally do is we try and get people to mix with other industries that have new product development people, so you get a lot more different and diverse ideas. The trouble with somebody that's been in an industry all his life is mostly they can only see what they've either done or haven't done, or so they don't actually, I don't like the word, but they say don't think out the box. In my mind, there is no box. I don't know where the box happened to be, yeah? That's in my mind. So, but most people can't see further than their own industry. So if you then sort of throw in a few other industries within the mix, you get a much richer new product development. A lot of the ideas are rubbish, but that's life, that's new product development, that's how it works. But what you get out of it is a lot more new and innovative ideas. The advantages of blue sky thinking to a smaller business, to come along to an open course, is we talk about how you get to blue sky thinking. You don't just suddenly arrive there one day. You don't just sort of turn up on a bus and go, this is blue sky thinking day. There's ways you have to get there. You have to look at other people's things. You have to be aware of stuff around you. You have to do a lot of different bits and pieces to actually get to blue sky thinking. In a way, and strangely, it's actually deconstructing different parts. Whenever I do a blue sky thinking day, the Chinese circus do Swan Lake Ballet, and I ask people to look at the Chinese circus doing the Swan Lake Ballet and to come to the meeting and explain not how good it was, because it's meant to be good, it's a circus, yeah, but how they actually got to that stage, where they got to in that stage, how do you deconstruct how they get to in that part, yeah? And if you can do that, if you can deconstruct something so that it actually gets to a part where you actually understand how that works, then you can do blue sky thinking. Could I teach anybody blue sky thinking? No, is the answer to that. You can, some people, rightly or wrongly, and it makes no difference, have a set way of thinking, and that set way of thinking would be difficult for them to actually start moving different things around. So that would be a problem for them. If someone was incredibly OCD, that would be, you couldn't teach them blue sky thinking, yeah? You couldn't teach them blue sky thinking because they have a set way of thinking. There's nothing wrong with that, that's what they are, that's just what they are. To be blue sky thinking, you have to try and think that, you have to think of abstract connections. Take Brillo pad. Brillo pad is, you all know what Brillo pad is, it's a Brillo pad, yeah? Well, about 10-15 years ago, the meat industry had used up all of their packaging machines, and somebody decided that we'd sell these to the Brillo pad companies to pack their Brillo pads. That is thinking like, I mean, if you'd have walked in the day before and said, we're going to pack Brillo pads in our mince bags, yeah, everyone would have sort of gone, you're mad. But no, it's really linking stuff. Bulrushes do a health and safety task training. Yeah. Now, in Bulrushes, the way we look at training, there's two different levels. So there's what we describe as ideas training, and what the ideas training in would be management training. So ideas training is purely, I am giving you my ideas on how to do your job as a manager, and how you to get across that, yeah, and how that works for you. So that's ideas training. And then there's also task training, as we call it. Now, a task training is training that is either taking something apart, a machine, a mincer, a grinder, a blender, whatever, or some task that is linear in the fact that what it actually does is you have to do one step at a time before you move forward. And our task training is completely different to any other task training. We create aid memoirs and we task train. All our task training is completely language neutral. There's no language required. It's also accredited by CPD, and the other thing that our task training has is a unique way of actually verifying that the individual has actually understood what they've done. And I mean verifying. This isn't 100%. Once you've done the verification, you know whether that person knows it completely or doesn't know it, and there's no ambiguity. It's 100% verification, and the verification is very, very quick. And I went to a major poultry, in fact a major turkey place recently, and the training officer there said that the verification was very simple, very effective, and very fast. So yeah, that's that. Task training or linear training in a multicultural society, in a multicultural workplace, is by far the best training for a couple of reasons, and not just because I'm selling it, but there's loads of reasons. But the first one is there is no language required, so it doesn't matter if you speak English, Hindu, Pakistan, German, Polish. Doesn't matter. You don't actually have to speak to the person that's training you. You generally do, and there is generally some sort of conversation between the two, but you don't actually have to. Yeah, the training is set up that you don't actually have to do any conversation at all. That said, when it comes to at the end of verification of if you actually understand the task, that tells the assessor immediately whether you've understood the task or not. So the assessor can either take you back over it or do something with the information that you've passed or you haven't passed or whatever. But the thing with the verification is it's good for the employer, for one, because the employer knows that the training's worked or not worked, which is equally as good because you could then retrain or do something else. But it's actually good for the individual because the end part is actually analytical. So the assessment at the end, actually being analytical, reinforces the training throughout. So the training becomes better because of the assessment, because you are actually looking at the whole thing in a completely different way. And because you're doing that, when you actually go down on the shop floor or wherever it is you're doing the task training or doing the task work, you can do it better because of the way you've actually finished the whole thing off. Would I say that the training from Bulrushess is irrefutable proof that the training has been embedded. Absolutely. Once you've seen the assessment, there can be no doubt that whoever has done that assessment, if they have done it correctly, has understood this. There's absolutely no doubt. It's completely. I mean, it would go in a court of law. It would go in insurance companies. It would go anywhere, because there's an old adage. It's not an adage. It's actually part of law. If the man on the 52 Peckham bus understands it, yeah. So if the man on the way home on the 52 Peckham, actually omnibus it was, but we'll say Peckham bus, understands it, then that is good law. Now, if you show this to anybody that is reasonably sensible, they will see immediately that you cannot get this wrong. If you get this wrong, you've got it wrong by you just don't understand it. If you've got it right, you've completely understood it. The best way to see this training is to get in touch. I can come out and see you. I can sort out. And the quickest way to see this training is to buy me a bottle of Côte d'Aron and tell me where it is, and I'll be there in a minute.